Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show, Chris. We've got the South Carolina Gamecocks on tap for everybody today. Chris, I got one question for you. Two questions, really. Are you feeling cocky right now?
Yeah, I am.
All right. How many wins, how many losses then?
Look, I know I've been dick riding South Carolina all offseason. You told me to shut up about them a couple months ago. I like the season that they had. I know their coach is kind of a stooge, but I like them. I like them this year again. I thought we should do them on the show. I know we debated that a little bit. I have them going 9-3. Okay, I know that might be a far stretch, and I could be totally wrong on this. You can let me know down in the comments why I'm an idiot. But I have the losses at LSU, at Ole Miss, and at A&M. This is not a easy schedule by any means. Now, I do have them beating Clemson at the end of the year. We did a preview and prediction video on Clemson, so anybody that watches that probably knew that. But I'm going to throw that question back over to you, Christian. What's your thoughts on the Gamecocks? I know we've been 4 for 4 today. Tell me why I'm right.
Yeah, the Cox fans are going to hate me here. I got them going 7-5. That's where we're going to really start disagreeing here, Chris. Losses to LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Clemson. Now, they did beat Clemson last year, but I got a feeling that Clemson's going to want some revenge right in there. Let me ask this to you, Chris.
Yeah.
After going 9-4 last year, which game's the most important this year for them?
This is tough because the schedule is relatively tough. There are a lot of good teams in here, especially in the middle of season to end of season. I have the game at LSU. I know it's impossible to play there. I mean, people have won there, but it's tough. It's a tough environment. The reason why I'm saying that, if you guys remember last year, because we talked about this game a ton, we were texting back and forth. Remember how LSU, the refs almost, and I hate to say this, I don't want to say they were bought off, but there was some really bad calls that effed South Carolina over in that game. I think they get the dub there, but I would have shocked me if they lose to LSU. I'm high on LSU this year. I know you are as well. That's probably the most important game, but you could say Oklahoma, Bama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. My God, that's a lot of good teams there. And then obviously the end of the year, right? You know, that's a rivalry game as well. But I want to hear your thoughts on their most important game as well.
It's the only time I've done it, Chris. You know, we've covered about 25 teams up till this point, but this is going to be the only time I'm going to do this. All of them. All of them are the most important games because Shane Beamer, he's still 15-17 in SEC play. And he needs to prove last year wasn't a fluke. We see it all the time. Who was it? Dave Aranda at Baylor had a really great year and then ended up pretty much shit in the bed the last few years there. I know they're trying to climb out of the basement. But to me, Shane Beamer got to improve on that.
I want to ask you a question and interrupt you there. Mm-hmm. Do you think Shane Beamer's overachieved, though, in his, this is going on his 5th year, I think, at South Carolina? Maybe I'm wrong on that. But do you think he's overachieved? Because I do. I think for South Carolina and what South Carolina football has been since he got there, I think he's overachieved. I know the year before he didn't have as good a season. I think they won, 5 games that year. But I think he's overachieved. I know he's beat their win total 4 out of the last 5 years or whatever it's set at. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he has overachieved, Chris. I mean, and he's unfortunately, he's kind of a victim of his own success. Some of these coaches, they're victims of their own success. Where you take over a program, you get them a lot better. Like Ryan Day was kind of like that, right, at Ohio State, where they should be beating Michigan every year. Oh, but they haven't, though. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just, you want more than what you're getting. And last year they finally got over the hump, won the national title with Ryan Day. I don't think anybody's saying, hey, South Carolina is going to win the national championship this year or in the near future. I think the question that everybody's asking, the one I know I'm asking is, hey, can they be good enough to make it to the playoffs? Can they be good enough to maybe go on a Cinderella-like run, make it to the SEC championship game, and have a shot at the playoffs? That's the question that I think I and a lot of people have right now. So looking at that, Chris, let's transition real quick over to some of their key losses from last year. They do lose running back Raheem Sanders, tight end Joshua Simmons, safety Nick Imanawari, linebacker Demetrius Knight Jr., linebacker Bam Martin Scott, and linebacker Debo Williams to go alongside of some other players here. They lose a good chunk of that defensive line in TJ Sanders and Tonka Hemingway, as well as Kyle Kennard and cornerback O'Donnell Fortune. Gosh, that's a mouthful there. So they lose a good chunk of their defense from last year. Let's talk about some of the guys they bring in. Running back Rasul Faison. He's still waiting to be cleared by the NCAA for eligibility for this year, but he had 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns at Utah last year, so he should be, if he's cleared, should be a good running back for him. Tight end Jordan Dingle. He's a Kentucky transfer. I think he's going to be a big part of the South Carolina offense. They love using tight ends at South Carolina in that Shane Beamer system. Wide receiver Malik Clark, top 15 receiver in this year's recruiting class. Huge get for South Carolina. Linebacker Sean Murphy. He's a talented linebacker. He should have a great year. Played at FSU and Bama. Still waiting to live up to some of that hype, I think, from what he was recruited at. So we'll see what he does this year. And the cornerbacks they brought in Miles Norwood, who's a Ball State transfer, had 10 pass breakups last year, and Brandon Cease. He had 28 tackles and 5 pass breakups last year as well. Looking at some of their top returning players, Chris, quarterback Lenore Sellers, 3,200 total yards last year and 25 touchdowns. He was a really good player for him last year when he was able to play for him. Wide receiver Nick Harbor, uberly talented wide receiver, had really probably one of the fastest guys in college football. He only had 376 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. Let's see if they can improve on that. Wide receiver Mazeo Bennett Jr., he had 337 yards and 3 touchdowns. Getting to the defensive side of the ball, some of their players they bring back, they don't bring a lot of guys back, but they do bring some good talent back on that side of the ball. Dylan Stewart, 6.5 sacks last year. I think Jadeveon Clowney 2.0 when I see this kid. Defensive end Brian Thomas Jr., he had 4.5 sacks last year. So he's going to be a pretty good bright spot for him. The nickel, Jalen Kilgore, had 48 tackles and 5 interceptions last year. And lastly, cornerback Judge Collier had 8 pass breakups. Chris, give me some of your last thoughts here.
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, I know I'm going out on a stretch here, with them going 9-3, and you looked at the schedule here. I mean, the at LSU, Oklahoma, Bama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, you got Coastal Carolina in there, and you got Clemson to follow. I mean, that's a tough-ass schedule to end the season. But here's my thing. I love Sellers. You know this. I've been high on the kid. I thought you touched on it. He played really well at times last year. If he can limit the turnovers, and South Carolina isn't a super sexy offensive team anyway. They're just not. They're kind of a grinded out type team. My biggest question is their defense last year was legit. People don't talk about them enough. They only allowed 27 or more points twice last year. That was it. They finished 12th in scoring defense and 16th in total defense. I know they lost some pieces, but one thing about Beamer, he's done a good job. He gets guys to buy in down there. This is South Carolina we're talking about. We're not talking about Georgia, Ohio State, or Oregon, these teams like Bama that recruit in the top 5 every year. South Carolina, they find a lot of diamonds in the rough down there, and I think it's going to happen again this year. That's why I'm banking on them to go 9-3. Would it shock me if they end up going 7-5 or 6-6? Probably not. They're a tough team to predict, but they're a team that I like this year. Christian, what's your thoughts, final thoughts, I should say, on the Gamecocks?
Yeah, I mean, they've got some really good talent, but, what can they do with that? That's the question that I have with South Carolina. They finally got the talent there. What can you do with it? You touched on it, Chris. They had a top 20 defense last year, but lost a good chunk of that to the NFL. Can they reproduce last year's success defensively? Lenore Sellers, can he continue where he left off last year, or is he going to kind of regress a little bit in his first full year of starting for him? And then lastly, what does success really look like for the Gamecocks and Shane Beamer? If you're a South Carolina fan or just a fan of college football, let us know down below. What does that really look like for South Carolina?